Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a theory, and honestly, it might completely change the way you think about history.
You know, when we think about history, we usually picture it as, well, kind of chaotic, right? Just a big, messy collection of events, wars, random decisions, and pure luck.
But what if that's not the whole story? What if it's not random at all? What if there's some kind of hidden script, a pattern, almost like a code, guiding how everything unfolds?
Okay, so today we're going to dig into this idea, focusing on one specific place, Spain. The source material for this explainer puts forward this really wild theory that the history of Spanish royalty wasn't just a series of random successions. Nope. It suggests it was following a very particular and, frankly, very strange script.
So where do we even start with a claim like that? Well, our first step is to look for clues. And the first clue comes from comparing the timelines of two big European powers that you wouldn't normally think of being connected.
And that brings us to what the source calls the first clue, this really strange historical echo between Spain and the Holy Roman Empire.
Now, on the surface, these two look totally different. You've got the Holy Roman Empire, this massive power in the middle of Europe, and then you have Spain, a kingdom that was pieced together over centuries of fighting on the Iberian Peninsula. But when you start lining up their timelines, something really weird starts to happen.
Okay, this is where it gets a little spooky. Take a look. Major turning points, the rise of new dynasties, moments of total chaos, kingdom divisions, they seem to happen at the same time. A new dynasty pops up in the empire and boom, Spain's first kingdom is born. The empire hits a period of crisis and suddenly a Spanish king is right in the middle of it. It's like they're two completely separate clocks, but for centuries they're ticking in perfect sync. And then it all culminates when the two timelines literally become one under a single person, King Charles.
So what do you make of that? Is it just a massive, unbelievable coincidence? Or is this the first hint that there's some deeper structure at play here? Well, that question leads us right to the second clue. All right, so now we're going to zoom in. We're moving from these big empire-level parallels to something even stranger, a pattern that seems to be hidden in the names of the Spanish kings.
The theory goes like this. Certain royal names aren't just names. They're basically roles, job descriptions. So if you're a king and your name is Ferdinand, your job, your destiny, is to unite kingdoms. If your name is Alphonse, you're either going to be a founder or you're going to be the guy who rules right before everything falls apart and divides.
And it gets even more specific. There's another role, almost like a supporting character in this whole historical play, the name Sancho. And a Sancho is pretty much always the brother.
And we're not just talking about one or two instances. This happens over and over. You look through the timeline, and whenever a big unification happens, yep, it's a Ferdinand. And the name Alphonse seems to be this historical marker for either the birth of a kingdom or the moment just before it splits. It's like history's on a loop, casting actors with the same names to play the same parts.
I mean, the implication here is pretty wild, right? It's suggesting these kings weren't just individuals making choices, but actors stepping into roles that were already written for them, with their names being the cue for what part they were supposed to play.
Okay, so if the names are part of the script, what about the timing of the play? This is where the whole theory goes from strange to, well, just downright bizarre, because it suggests that this entire historical drama is unfolding to a very specific mathematical beat. The first number you need to know is 247. Just remember that number. Because according to this theory, there's a 247-year cycle that keeps showing up, marking the space between huge historical events.
Just look at this timeline. A kingdom divides. Then, 247 years later, another huge division. A major unification happens. Then, 247 years after that, another critical event. It's like there's this hidden historical pulse, and the beat is exactly 247 years. And this interval lines up perfectly with those role-playing kings we were just talking about.
But wait, there's more. That's not the only number. The source points to another, even bigger pattern, a 320-year cycle.
And this longer rhythm seems to map out the grand story of division and unification. From the moment things fall apart to the moment they're finally put back together again, the timeline is consistently around 320 years. It's this epic 3-century rhythm of history breathing in and breathing out, splitting apart and then reforming.
So at this point, you might be thinking,
Okay, that's weird, but it's probably just some strange fluke unique to Spanish history. And that would be a fair point. Except, what if it's not?
Because for the final piece of this puzzle, the theory looks just next door to Spain, at Portugal. And guess what? It claims the exact same script is playing out there, too.
It's pretty incredible. You look at Portugal's history, and the roles are all there. Who's the founder of the kingdom? A king named Alphonse. Who are the sons? Sanchos. And then you get a Ferdinand, who tries to do what Ferdinands do, unite the kingdoms. Now, in this case, his attempt actually failed and led to a war, but that's what makes it so interesting. He was still playing his assigned role. The script was the same, even if the final act played out a little differently.
Okay, let's just take a step back and recap what we've seen. We've got historical timelines that weirdly sync up with the Holy Roman Empire. We've got kings whose names seem to dictate their entire historical purpose. We have these bizarrely precise, repeating numerical cycles, 247 years and 320 years. And to top it all off, the whole pattern pops up again right next door in Portugal.
So when you put all of that together, it leads to a really big and kind of unsettling question. If history really has these kinds of improbable, deeply structured patterns woven into it, can we still call it random? Or are we actually looking at evidence of something else, a story that somehow was already written before it ever happened? It's a lot to think about.